I almost didn't do it because the number felt so pathetic. $15. Against a mountain of debt that currently sits at a crushing 37,850, 15 bucks feels like a bad joke. It feels like trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. I actually sat on the edge of my bed, holding this dusty old Bluetooth speaker, debating if the hassle was even worth the effort to meet someone. But I did it anyway, and honestly, it changed my entire vibe for the week. This is my real-time journey, not expert advice. Here is exactly what happened. To be real, my emergency fund, my E-fund, is sitting at exactly $75. I only started it 2 days ago after finally scraping together a few loose ends, and while it's technically not zero, it feels incredibly fragile. It feels like it could vanish if I so much as sneeze. I know the experts say you need 1,000 or 3 months of expenses, but right now, I'm just trying to protect that tiny $75 seed so it can actually grow into something real. So, Tuesday night, I was feeling pretty low about my finances. I was looking at my budget spreadsheet, and the numbers just weren't moving fast enough. I felt stuck. I looked around my apartment and realized I was surrounded by stuff I bought with money I didn't really have. That's when I saw the speaker. I haven't used it in 2 years. I looked it up online and used ones were selling for about 20 bucks. I thought, okay, if I list it for $15, it might go fast. But then the laziness hit. You know that voice? The one that says, ugh, you have to take pictures, you have to write a description, you have to deal with strangers messaging you. Is $15 really worth an hour of your life? I almost threw it back in the drawer. I almost convinced myself that unless I could make $500 to make a dent in that $37,000 monster, it wasn't worth the effort. But then I remembered the 1% philosophy we talk about here. I'm not trying to solve the whole debt today. I'm just trying to have a non-zero day. I needed a win, even a micro win. So I took 3 blurry photos, typed "works great, pickup only," and hit post. And then crickets. For 2 hours, nothing happened. I started checking my phone every 5 minutes, feeling that stupid mix of hope and annoyance. I began to think, see, nobody wants this junk. This was a waste of time. Then the notifications started, and they were almost worse than the silence. 3 people asked, "Is this available?" And then ghosted me immediately when I replied, "Yes." One guy offered me $5 and asked if I could deliver it to a town 40 minutes away. I actually laughed out loud at that one. It was just absurd. But then, late that evening, a message popped up from a guy named Mike. "I can pick it up tomorrow morning. $15, can I transfer the money? I don't carry cash." The next morning, the anxiety kicked in. I don't know why, but selling stuff to strangers makes me nervous.
To reiterate the key deliverables,
I drove to the
we
gas
projected-
station down the street. Neutral. Ground, right? And waited. I was sitting there in my car, clutching this old speaker, thinking about how weird this was. I have a full-time job. Why am I sitting in a parking lot for 15 bucks? It felt desperate. It felt like I was scraping the bottom of the barrel. Mike pulled up. He was a normal guy. He didn't even get out of his car immediately. He just rolled down the window and held up his phone. "I'm sending it now," he said. I checked my banking app. A few seconds later, ding. Payment received by $15. I handed him the speaker through the window. "Thanks," he said. "Thanks," I said. And he drove off. I sat there in my car, staring at the notification on my screen. And this is the part that surprised me. I expected to feel silly, but I didn't. I felt capable. Usually, money only comes into my life from my paycheck, which is already accounted for before it even hits my bank account. Rent takes a chunk, debt payments take a chunk, groceries take the rest. I have zero flexibility, but this was new money. This was money I created out of thin air just by clearing out clutter. Since the money was digital, the temptation was actually stronger than if I had cash. It was already in my spending account. I could have opened the Starbucks app right there in the parking lot and reloaded my card. It would have been so easy to treat this as found money or free money. $15 is exactly the price of a decent lunch. But I opened my banking transfer tab instead. I didn't wait to get home. I did it right there in the driver's seat. From checking to emergency fund, amount $15 left. I clicked submit. I opened up my master spreadsheet, the one I show you guys every week. Next to emergency fund current balance, it said 75 rand. That number had been lonely for the last 48 hours. I deleted the 75, I typed in 90, and I hit enter. Does $90 change my life? Mathematically, no. My debt is $37,850. This $15 covers about 0.04% of my financial problem. If I look at the big chart, the bar for my savings barely moved. It's a pixel. Maybe 2 pixels. But emotionally, it felt huge. Seeing that number tick up from 75 to 90 proved that the system works. It proved that I can move the needle even if it's slow. That $75 felt like an accident. $90 feels like a strategy. If I get a flat tire, well, okay, $90 won't fix everything. But it buys me a little more breathing room than I had yesterday. It's a start. It broke the stagnation. The most important thing wasn't the math. It was the realization that I wasn't helpless. I had been staring at my budget thinking, I can't squeeze any more money out of this paycheck. And I was right. But I could squeeze money out of my closet. This brings me to the biggest realization of the week, and it's the core lesson of our 1% journey. Momentum matters more than math. If you look at this purely as a numbers game, I wasted an hour for 15 bucks. A financial expert might say my time is worth more than that, but they would be missing the point. The point wasn't the transaction, the point was the transformation. For months, I've identified as someone who is bad with money. I've identified as someone who is drowning. When that transfer hit my phone, I briefly switched my identity to someone who is a producer. I didn't just consume, I generated value. In Atomic Habits, the philosophy isn't about hitting a home run every time you step up to the plate. It's about casting votes for the type of person you want to be. By sitting in that parking lot and instantly transferring those digital credits to my savings, I cast a vote for the version of me that is debt-free. I proved to myself that I have options. I proved that I don't have to be a victim of my past spending habits. I can literally reverse them, one item at a time. Now, when I look around my apartment, I don't just see clutter anymore. I see inventory. I see potential. I'm already eyeing an old coat and a stack of video games. Maybe that's another $40. Maybe that's another $10. It doesn't matter. It's all fuel for the fire. The E-Fund is climbing, and my motivation is finally waking up. I am exactly $15 richer than I was yesterday, but I feel 100% more in control. My 1% mission for tomorrow is to find just one more thing to list online. Even if it's just for $5, I want to keep this feeling alive. What is your 1% step? Is there something sitting in your drawer right now that could be $10 in your pocket? Let me know in the comments if you're selling something this week. I am not a financial expert or advisor. This content is for documenting my personal journey and for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research before making any financial decisions.